The police have new technology that is essentially GPS tracker guns that can be shot at your car and track your every move. Before I tell you all you need to know about this new weapon for cops, there are a few questions you should be asking. Can cops legally shoot a GPS tracker gun at your car? If so, can you throw it away? Will you get charged for theft if you do? Are police allowed to use GPS trackers on your vehicle at all? What if you are driving a car with a GPS tracker and it's not your car? I've been practicing criminal law for decades, and as technology continues to improve, we see cops coming up with innovative ways to track your data and track your every move. Technology has improved so much now that cops have developed a device like a gun that shoots tracker darts on your car and follows you. One example is the Star Chase GPS launcher. This unit is mounted on the front of a patrol car and releases a dart that sticks to the vehicle in front of it. They were designed to be used to avoid high-speed chases that could turn into serious accidents. But that doesn't mean cops will stop there. The darts are 4.5-inch projectiles coated in adhesive. The GPS dart provides real-time location tracking to allow officers to stop pursuing the fleeing car but continue tracking the suspect. So one example is the Star Chase GPS launcher. Let's see this thing in action. Who needs a GPS tracker where a cop has to walk up and be careful that you don't see him? Now all cops have to do is get close enough to launch the dart from the front of their car, and you'll never know it was on your vehicle to begin with. In fact, the cops can shoot the dart at the car and then track it for miles as they drive away. And then, of course, as soon as the cops realize where you stop the car and you park it, they'll surround you, end up turning around and arresting whoever is in the vehicle or who remains in control of the vehicle. But the real question is, what happens if you find the actual dart on the back of your car and you choose to get rid of it? Now, can cops legally do this? Before we can answer that question, we must first answer the question whether cops are allowed to legally use GPS trackers. Back in the day, the police would put GPS trackers on everybody they wanted to, under the theory they could do so legally because the car is driving around in a public area, so there's no real expectation of privacy. That is, until 2012. In 2012, the United States Supreme Court ruled on this issue in United States versus Jones. In that case, the police placed a GPS tracker on Mr. Jones's car and tracked him for weeks, without a search warrant and definitely without Mr. Jones's consent. So Mr. Jones took action. After being arrested, Mr. Jones's lawyers argued that the police violated his constitutional rights by placing the GPS tracker on his car because it constituted a search. As a result, they needed a search warrant. The government, of course, argued that it was not a violation of his Fourth Amendment rights because driving around a car on a public road, there is no expectation of privacy. Fortunately for Mr. Jones, the Supreme Court ruled that in order for the police to be able to place a GPS tracker on his vehicle, they must have a valid search warrant establishing probable cause. The problem in many states, including Texas, magistrates are allowed to sign off on these warrants, and these so-called magistrates sometimes don't even have to have law degrees. In fact, I have seen these magistrate judges sign off on these search warrants after spending only a few seconds reading the facts in the supporting affidavit. In other words, it's not hard for the cops to find probable cause to get a GPS tracker on your car. As a result, if somehow a GPS tracker ends up on your car, there's a good chance that either your ex-wife put it there or a detective easily got probable cause and put it there. So now you have a real dilemma. What do you do with the tracker once you find it? Can you remove it? Can you throw it away? Can you get in trouble for throwing it away? That's exactly what happened to an Indiana man when he discovered a GPS tracker on his car. The police suspected him of using his 1999 Ford Expedition to transport meth. What did he do with the tracker, you may ask? Since he didn't know where it came from or who put it there, he removed it from his vehicle and put it on a shelf in his garage. Soon enough, the local police noticed there was no movement coming from the GPS tracker, so they tracked him down to his garage. So what do you think they did? They were able to obtain a search warrant under the theory that the man stole the GPS tracker when he removed it from his car. The cops proceeded to raid his house. They found the GPS tracker and some meth he had in the house. Now, nobody said that this man was thinking clearly or had any clue that the police were after him. Otherwise, he would have trashed this GPS tracker and certainly trashed any of the meth he had in his house. But at trial, this man's criminal lawyer argued that it couldn't possibly be theft because the tracker was unmarked and there's no way he could have possibly known it was a police tracker. Now, I want you to stop and think about how crazy this is. Somebody put some type of GPS tracker on your car. You have no idea who did it. You have no idea where it came from. But if you decide to remove that GPS tracker from your car and now you either throw it away or you keep it, somehow we're supposed to believe that this constitutes the crime of theft? Think about this. For the government to prove theft, they're going to have to show proof beyond a reasonable doubt that he intentionally or knowingly looked to permanently deprive the owner of their property. The problem? This guy had no idea where the tracker came from. For all he knew, it could have been his crazy ex-wife or some other guy that was out for him. He clearly didn't think it was the police that was out for him because he kept the tracker at his house. This situation could have been even more ridiculous. Imagine if they didn't find the GPS tracker at his house. What if they found it on the side of the road or it was left on someone else's car? They would have never been able to prove that the GPS tracker didn't fall off on its own or that someone else didn't remove it and place it somewhere else. This man argued his case all the way to the Indiana Supreme Court. The court ruled that finding an unmarked GPS tracker on your car, taking it off, and storing it at your house provided no criminal intent establishing theft. As a result, the warrant that allowed the cops to raid his house was illegal and everything was to be excluded at trial. In other words, cops can't claim you stole something when you didn't even know who the item belonged to. But what if you borrowed your friend's car and it turns out the cops were tracking your friend's car with a GPS tracker? That's exactly what happened in the case of United States versus DeWilfon. In that case, Josh, who was driving his friend's car with a police GPS tracker on it, was tracked down, he was surrounded and arrested for having drugs in the car. The crazy part? All of this information was obtained from a confidential informant. The confidential informant was the same friend who let him borrow the car. Josh fought his arrest and claimed it was a violation of his Fourth Amendment rights for the police to conduct, quote, warrantless surveillance of his location through the use of GPS monitoring. What did the cops say? Well, even though installation of a police GPS tracker on your car is considered a search, for Josh, this was no trespassery search according to the court. Why? Because the actual owner of the car consented to the installation of the police GPS tracker. So as a result, the court ruled that Josh should not have any reasonable expectation of privacy for anything that happened in his friend's car. This brings us to the ultimate question. Can cops shoot these GPS tracker darts at your car? The likely answer? It depends. If the cops use these tracker darts as part of a high-speed chase, then it's likely going to be upheld. Why? Because the Supreme Court addressed the issue of high-speed chases in the case of Scott versus Harris. The court ruled that police attempts to end a dangerous high-speed chase that placed other bystanders at risk was not a violation of the Fourth Amendment, even though the actions the police took put the fleeing suspect at risk. In that case, the police used the push bumper technique to push the fleeing suspect out of control and into a ditch, causing a crash. But what if you were not committing a crime in your vehicle, like a high-speed chase? In that situation, the officer would likely not have the justification to shoot a high-speed GPS tracker at your car to track you. So, what should you do if you ever find a GPS tracker on your vehicle? Tell me in the comments below what you would do if you found a GPS tracker on your car. It would be hard for the cops to claim you committed theft unless the GPS tracker was clearly marked property of the police department, which would never happen. As for me, if I ever find a GPS tracker on my car, it will pull a disappearing act. Now, what if the cops start approaching you and asking you questions about where that GPS tracker is located? We all know that we should remain silent, but did you know that the police have a Fifth Amendment loophole they like to try to trick you with? Check out this video where I break it all down. See you there.